I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. My father owned 2 nightclubs when I was growing up. I have 4 sisters and my mom. My dad was a very physical man, very abusive man, not just to me, but to my sisters, as well as to my mom, as well as to people in the community. Everybody was afraid of my dad. And it got to the point to where I hated him. The things that he would try to tell me, I wouldn't listen because I didn't want to hear nothing he had to say. I didn't want to be like him. All I wanted to do was to kill my dad. And one day the recruiters from the Marine Corps came to my high school, and I went up to Sergeant Dixon and I asked him, could you teach me how to kill? And he said, that's what the Marines do best. And I said, I want to be a Marine. And so at 17 years old, I joined the Marine Corps, not because I was patriotic, but because I wanted to learn how to fight. I wanted to learn how to kill. I wanted to protect my mom and my sisters. At least that's what my mindset was. And it was in the Marine Corps where I met a guy named Buchanan who asked me, was I a Christian? And I told him, yeah. And he says, you couldn't be a Christian the way you curse, the way you fight, the way you act. Christians don't act like that. And I said, you can't tell me what a Christian acts like. And he took me to the barracks and he opened up his Bible and he took me through Romans Road. And for the first time in my life, I mean, I've been going to church all my life, but for the first time in my life, when he opened up those scriptures and he took me through Romans Road, the Bible became real. Jesus became real. And he saved my life. And after that, I got married, came here to Texas, had 3 boys. At that time, I had 3 boys. My daughter wasn't born yet, and I was the quote-unquote spiritual leader of the family and all that good stuff. And one Sunday morning, we were on our way to church to serve communion at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. I was a deacon, and my boys were acting like boys, goofing around, playing around, running behind. And I started yelling at them. I started telling them, to get online, get your clothes on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And by the time we got in the car and drove up to Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, my 3 boys were in the back seat of the car, just shaking from fear, crying and sniffling. And then I looked at my wife, and my wife was sitting next to me. She wasn't crying, but she was shaking, and she was like, I can't believe I'm in this marriage with this guy. And it just hit me. It hit me that I was not a dad or a husband who listened to his wife or listened to his kids. It was my way or the highway. And I realized going to even serve communion that I wasn't even listening to God. And that was the most important part. And I was blowing it. My wife told me that if I didn't get help, if I didn't get Christian counseling, that our marriage was going to be over. And when she said those words to me, man, it broke my heart. It tore me up. And I realized that I really, really needed help. And I realized that there was nothing that I could do but go and seek God's wisdom and seek God's counsel. I realized that if I was ever going to be the dad God wanted me to be and be the husband that God wanted me to be, I had to make changes. And it was at that point that I went and sought help from Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. And I was sitting behind the desk behind the counselor, and he was telling me about being a man. And here I was, a Marine and physical and provided for my family and everything. And I rejected that, and I got mad at him. And I told him, I said, how can you tell me about being a man? I said, I'm a Marine. I provide for my family. I take care of my family. And he goes, yeah, you got that part down. He says, but you don't know how to be a godly man. You don't know how to be a spiritual man. And he introduced me to a book by Gene Getz called The Measure of a Man. And as I started to read that book, and I realized, man, I was not a listening dad. I didn't communicate well with my wife or with my children. I had a bad temper. I was a man overcome with anger. And I also was not a peaceable man. I was not a peacemaker. And over the years of going through this book and having men in my life hold me accountable, my wife now sees, my children now see that I am now becoming the man that God wants me to be, a communicator, a listener, a peacemaker, and a man who is now not overcome with anger, but overcome with love and gentleness and joy. And it's now part of my ministry. I preach this book, I teach this book. Any man who comes to my church and any man who wants to be in leadership, whether it's a deacon, elder, they have to go through the measure of man, and not with just anybody, they have to go through it with me. I'm so thankful for how God has come into my life and has now given me the honor and the privilege of being a faithful husband, an awesome dad. At least I think I'm an awesome dad and a wonderful grandfather, but also a pastor of a church, to be able to preach and to teach his word to his people, man. And it's just an honor how God can take a person who all he wanted to do was be a murderer, a killer, and turn me now into a shepherd of God's sheep, including my wife and my children. For me, there's no greater honor than to do that, as well as serving my country. So I thank God for that.